James Cleverly, United Kingdom Minister for the Middle East and North Africa at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. Welcome to Al Arabiya, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would like to start with the Middle East. How has the United Kingdom Middle East policy evolved since Brexit?
Well, obviously, as we leave the European Union, it gives us the opportunity to continue our investment of time in our friends around the region, to really engage and be a global player and a force for good. And so we will continue to work with long-standing friends in the region, enhance our relationships, and make sure that we support regional peace, regional prosperity, and as I say, continue to be a force for good in our relationships around the region.
According to Stephanie Williams, SRSG, UNSMIL, the Libyans want an unarmed United Nations supervised international monitoring force, and in Resolution 2542, the Security Council asked the Secretary General to come up with a recommendation on how the United Nations can take part in the scalable ceasefire support. How do you see this going forward?
Well, the United Kingdom has been passionate about bringing peace to Libya for many years now. Indeed, I spoke to Prime Minister Siraj just last week, and we discussed the challenges in the country. We've been very supportive of the work that Stephanie Williams has done, and we look forward to seeing her replacement and working with whoever that is. And we want to see a de-escalation in Libya. We want to see both arms and foreign fighters removed from the country, and a political dialogue to drive the settlement here. The Libyan people have suffered for such a long time, and there cannot be a military solution. It has to be a negotiated political solution. And we will work to bring the sides together to talk under the umbrella of the United Nations to bring about peace so that the Libyan people can get on with their lives.
The United Kingdom has been urged by Libya's National Oil Corporation to seek opportunities in the Libyan oil and gas sector, and that was this month actually. How do you view such an offer, and do you see it as a viable offer when Libya is in turmoil and still with two competing governments?
Well, the oil production will be an important part of the Libyan economy for the foreseeable future. What we want to make sure is that Libyan's oil production is in the hands of Libyan people, not influenced, controlled or distorted by external actors or foreign countries. In order for that to happen, the oil revenues need to be equitably and fairly distributed to all the regions within Libya. And this can only be achieved through a negotiated settlement. So we're very much encouraging all sides to come together in good faith under the auspices of the United Nations to negotiate what a sustainable peace and economic settlement would be for Libyan people.
On Iran and the snapback, how do you view US President Trump's announcement of sanctions on all who do business with Iran? Does it deter the UK from doing so? And if not, what about the UK businesses and banks?
Well, our position on Iran has been consistent and long-standing. We want to make sure that we encourage Iran away from the pursuit of nuclear weapons, for example. We want to ensure Iran steps back from interfering in other countries around the region. We would like to be in a position where our relationships with Iran are more similar to other relationships we have with countries around the world and around the region. But in order to do that, Iran does need to step back from interference beyond its borders. It does need to step away from any attempt to become a nuclear weapons state. And if it were to take steps in that direction, we would welcome that, and we would wish to see our relationships normalised. But unfortunately, at the moment, we haven't seen that kind of action from Iran. And we will work with our international partners to ensure that there is regional peace and regional stability, and that nothing Iran does should in any way upset that.
Would the UK businesses and bank risk having the US sanctions imposed on them?
Well, the United States of America are very long-standing and close friends to the United Kingdom, and I think ultimately what we wish to see happen in Iran is not that dissimilar to what the United States of America wants to see, and that is an Iran which is acting responsibly within the region. We sometimes disagree on exactly how to go about those things, but as I say, the UK will always encourage Iran if it takes steps in the right direction. But we have always said that we will not ignore Iran if it takes inappropriate actions within the region.
I'd like to move to Iraq, sir. There are still numerous UK citizens in camps in Iraq who need to be repatriated and rehabilitated or brought to justice. The Iraqi government and the United Nations are asking for repatriation to the country of origin. How is the United Kingdom doing in repatriating its own citizens?
Well, the United Kingdom has made our position clear, is that our first responsibility is to protect British people, is to ensure that fighters that have travelled to the region, whether to support Daesh or other terrorist organisations, pose a significant potential threat to the United Kingdom, and we have to protect our own people. And this, of course, is a challenging topic and a delicate topic, but we will ensure that we continue to support the Iraqi government and the people of Iraq in rebuilding of their country, and we seek to maintain good working relationships as we have at the moment. But the issue of foreign fighters and where they're best brought to justice is a difficult one, and we will continue working with our international friends to resolve this issue. But ultimately, the protection of the British people from violence and aggression will always be at the heart of this government.
But the detainees are your people too. Why don't you repatriate and rehabilitate them?
Well, we will look at these. We have to look at individuals on a case-by-case basis, and the Home Secretary, as I say, her first responsibility is for the protection of British people. But we will work with our international friends, including the Iraqi government, to assess the best way of dealing with this situation, including how these people are brought to justice, and indeed where these people are brought to justice.
Middle East peace. How do you think the recent United Arab Emirates and Bahrain peace deals with Israel will affect Palestinian lives and Palestinian rights?
Well, we are good and long-standing friends of Israel, and we are long-standing friends of the UAE and indeed of Bahrain, and so therefore we welcome the normalisation of relationships between three good friends of the United Kingdom. We're also very pleased to see that through this process, talk of annexation of parts of the West Bank were taken off the table. We welcome that, and we think that is a good step, and we wish to see that become permanent. And what we have said to the Palestinian Authority, indeed the Palestinian people, is that this provides an opportunity to engage. We know that there was much disquiet in the Palestinian Authority when the United States plan was put forward. We understand that, but the thing we say very, very strongly is take this as an opportunity to engage, take this as an opportunity to put forward a strong and meaningful counter proposal. because ultimately the UK's position remains the same, that we want to see a safe, secure, prosperous Palestinian state alongside a safe, prosperous Israel, with East Jerusalem as a shared capital, and with along the 1967 borders. And we will continue working to achieve that, and we really hope that this provides a catalyst for a resumption of a good working relationship between the Palestinian Authority and the government of Israel.
I'd like to move to COVID-19. What are your expectations for the United Nations conference tomorrow, Wednesday, entitled Accelerating the End of the COVID-19 Pandemic, co-hosted by the United Kingdom, South Africa, Secretary General Guterres, and the World Health Organization?
Well, the speech that the UK Prime Minister made over the weekend, I think, sets out both the challenge and potentially the global response to that challenge. COVID-19 has confronted all of us with a level of difficulty that we're not used to. And ultimately, the response needs to be a global response, because none of us are safe until all of us are safe. The Prime Minister says that we want to create a mechanism whereby when a vaccine is found, that it can be distributed fairly to all the parts of the world that need it. And we are willing to work hard and indeed invest significant money to ensure that that is the case. My Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, will be engaged with our global partners tomorrow. And we will continue working to develop a vaccine, to distribute a vaccine, and to provide a funding mechanism for that. Because this is a global pandemic and it requires a global response. And the United Nations is well placed to be the hub, the vehicle around which that global response rotates.
There's an old English saying that says, charity starts at home. The United Kingdom records have been bad lately, and now the numbers are doubling every 7 days. If that continues, you would have 50,000 new cases every day by mid-October. Is a second national lockdown or shutdown on the horizon?
Well, the figures that you discussed were projections by our scientific advisors if the UK did not take action. And you're right that is a well-known English phrase, but one that the Prime Minister has used is another one. A stitch in time saves nine, meaning that if you take early action, you can prevent a more significant challenge in the future. So the UK government has announced some measures which introduce some limitations, not the kind of lockdown that we saw earlier on in the year. And those limitations are to prevent that exponential growth that those charts discussed. We've learned so much since earlier on in the year. Our treatments are more effective. We understand the disease better. And also we need to make sure that our economies stay vibrant, because of course it is through that we're able to pay for our health sector. So we don't envisage a lockdown as we saw earlier on in the year, but we will take decisive action as needs be to prevent the virus from spreading again in the UK.
In January 2019, you were appointed Youth Ambassador, a vocal champion for the youth and pulling together good practices. What would your recommendation be for the youth in the Middle East who have to deal with high unemployment and lost opportunities due to COVID-19?
The effect of this disease on young people is significant. And as you say, the disease not only has an impact on health, typically the health of older people, but also on economies. And that is where actually its impact on young people sometimes can be most felt. This is why we want to ensure that we have vibrant economies. We're very keen, as you say, the Middle East, North Africa has a very young population, a very enthusiastic, very digitally connected. From the UK's point of view, we're very keen to see the health technologies that we're invested in spread around the region. We're very keen that education, which we feel is one of our national strengths, is something that we also share with young people around the region. Technology, I think, will unlock huge opportunities. And so we want to see those young people digitally connected, to have a voice and to be able to express their ideas. And the UK will continue to work with countries in Middle East, North Africa, to provide those employment opportunities, those economic opportunities, to give young people a positive outlet for their energies and their ideas.
My last topic is climate change. The United Kingdom will host the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties in Glasgow in the period between 1st and the 12th of November 2021. The UK will lead by example, said Boris Johnson in his speech to the General Assembly. What has the United Kingdom committed to so far in relation to climate change?
The Prime Minister and the government, we have really embraced the opportunities of COP26. We're very proud of the fact that we have very much reduced our reliance on coal as an energy generator. We're moving much more towards sustainable energy. We're encouraging countries from around the world to be really bold in the ideas that they're bringing forward for COP26. And the Prime Minister has recently announced that he has an aspiration by 2030 to have 30% of the UK's land area put back to nature, to be much more sustainable. And so whether it's renewable energy generation and green energy generation, whether it's reintroducing wild species of plants and animals, or just the better use of technology so that we don't have to burn so many fossil fuels. The UK is very proud to lead from the front and bring together the bold ideas from around the globe and indeed around the region. And I comfortably predict that a number of our friends from the Middle East and North Africa will come to that conference, I'm sure, with some really exciting ideas about how we can green our economies as we come out of COVID and step towards the future.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson last week at the United Nations Climate Action Roundtable announced the joint UK-UN Launchpad Summit on the 12th of December of this year, where countries would be expected to unveil enhanced climate pledges. How will the UK keep climate action on the agenda as the world battles COVID-19?
You make a very, very important point. COVID-19 is a very immediate challenge, and it's one that we have to deal with. But the environment and climate change isn't going to wait for us to resolve this issue. So we have to apply ourselves to saving lives and protecting societies around the globe with the vaccine and other measures. But at the same time, we also have to think about how we rebalance our economies, new ways of generating energy, better ways of protecting our respective environments. And these things have to go hand in hand. But there is an opportunity to do both at the same time, because a lot of the ideas and innovation which will help us distribute a vaccine, these are the same, unbelievably clever people around the world that will help us deal with some of the other challenges like climate change. So we have to have the discipline to do both these things at the same time, because neither one of which can be put on the back burner.
James Cleverly, United Kingdom Minister for the Middle East and North Africa at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, we thank you for your insight and we thank you for this interview, and we wish you the very best of luck, sir.